Hello and welcome back to LOD and T. This video talks about the concept of front signs. It's part of a larger series that I'm working on about direction and orientation because we tend to conflate them as movers, or many dancers I see struggle with that. And so I'm trying to just parse them out and remind dancers that there's value to understanding them as discrete concepts that are interrelated, but can be used to orient ourselves differently and have different perspectives. So today's talk is about front signs, and this is an example of facing front. So front meaning in your performance space, you have identified a front. A proscenium stage is the perfect example where I have a front of the stage, it's a rectangular box, and I am looking toward the audience, right? So that would be my front direction, and I would be facing front. It's a front sign. So it's where is my personal front pointed? And in this instance, it's pointed toward the audience. You can see it points up the page, similar to how a front direction has a little chimney that points up the page. So front sign that points front to the front of the space, and it points up the page. So this is a really valuable concept, especially when we are talking about orienting dancers to which way they should be faced in their performance. And the front signs are really useful for people, I think, who really value what we call the constant cross. So constant cross is a way of perceiving the space where front is always toward the audience, back is always away from the audience, side and side are established as stage right or stage left, right? So another way to say this would be, I would be facing downstage. If I'm facing the audience, I'm facing downstage. So when we orient in this way, if you're like, yes, this is how I think about space, wonderful. Start here. Start to investigate and research how front signs can work for you, because it really does clarify which direction on the stage am I facing? How am I orienting myself on the stage? Then, once you feel really, really established in this performance space, in this constant cross, where downstage is always downstage, it's always represented by this symbol, upstage is always upstage, stage right and stage left are always as they've been established, then we can move into understanding how our personal directions relate to this. So I might be facing downstage, and if I do a forward gesture, then I would gesture downstage. If I'm facing upstage, away from the audience, and I do a forward gesture, it's forward to my personal body, but now it's away from the audience. And for some dancers, that direction, reaching away from the audience, might feel like back. And in this constant cross world, that's the perspective you're using when you identify that direction as back. It's not wrong, but it's not our standard key. So here, if you haven't watched the other video about standard key and any directions from your personal front, be sure to go back and check that out, because it's these two concepts that I feel are most salient for dancers who find themselves struggling with, I thought that meant turn to face a direction. No, it means it's a relationship of the body in space, the relationship of the body being in a performance space that's been established as constant. And we use symbols like this, our front sign, to help us. We'll also see this tack used in different ways with rotation symbols and some other orientation principles. It's such a useful way to relate to space. And then you'll also have our direction symbols, which are very personal and also contextual. So that is the foundation that I wanted to offer you. And if you're still feeling unclear, please ask me questions. I'm always developing ways to describe it and try to be clear about it. The crux of this lesson is the idea that we each have preferred ways to think about space, right? What feels natural depending on how our brains have configured our sense of space, how maybe we've been modeled language surrounding space. And so when we're orienting ourselves according to this system, if we're learning this system and we want to use this system functionally, we might have to adjust or at least reconnect how our perception of space, our perception of directions, and our perception of front and back can be represented then on the page and might be separate from how others perceive and represent it. So lots to think about, and don't get too turned around, pun intended, and have fun. Just remember that there's lots of ways to grow our brain and our use of space, and I hope that you keep dancing and keep notating, and please do pass any questions along. Enjoy, and I'll talk to you later.